I feel like no one talked about this once-in-a-lifetime event that happened last year. Yes, even you. But the fact that the 2025 March Madness should have had the first ever perfect bracket. Because of the chaos and the unpredictability most years of the Big Dance, 2025 was relatively predictable and calm, making this the year to do it. So if everything went the way it was supposed to, how did a single person not get it perfect? The reason why is more interesting than you think. I'm pretty sure we have all heard the perfect bracket stat, that it's a 1 in 9.2 quintillion chance to complete a perfect bracket. Which yeah, the results we have seen in the tournament's history make it a little hard to predict. In the Big Dance, we have seen a 16 seed upset a 1 seed, a Final Four with no seed lower than a 4, and a handful of double-digit seeds to make the Final Four. Chaos is embedded in this tournament, and we as a country have come to expect every March to see upsets or mid-major teams go on a magical run. Yet, this 2025 March Madness proved years of brackets wrong, barely any upsets, nearly zero Cinderellas, and favorites going the distance. On Sunday, March 16th, we learned the fate of the 2025 bracket. There's always interesting matchups whenever the selections are made, but a handful of games are the topic for most people. 8 seed UConn vs 9 seed Oklahoma, 10 seed Arkansas vs 7 seed Kansas, 6 seed BYU vs 11 seed VCU. These and the rest of the games set up another year of brackets being made, 39 million between men's and women's. Millions of different champions chose, upsets selected, and dollars lost to coworkers who somehow got a better bracket than you despite not watching a single second. But that word upset is key, since we basketball fans have ingrained in our minds to see upsets over the years of the bracket. It creates this scenario called fake upsets, or upsets that the public predict and treat as toss-ups when those matchups really aren't. That is one reason why so many brackets end up busted just on the very first 2 days. We overthink the seeding and teams. In my opinion, with some of these examples, people just overthought the easy winners. Like my prior matchup example, 6 seed BYU vs 11 seed VCU, the KenPom ranking had them just 8 spots apart, with a betting line of BYU just -2.5. BYU ended up winning by 9 against VCU, where the first 16 minutes were competitive, then BYU pulled away and the game never got close again. Same thing happened with 5 seed Oregon vs 12 seed Liberty for a fake upset. Liberty was one of the more popular 12 seeds to win. Oregon was just 6.5 favorites despite being a top 40 team in offensive and defensive efficiency. This game resulted in Oregon winning by a small margin of 29. Then the 8 vs 9 matchup saw big teams you couldn't pick against. Gonzaga as an 8, picked every time. UConn as an 8 seed, picked every time. Creighton as a 9 seed, picked every time. Those toss-up games were seen as tough choices for some when they shouldn't have been. Now that we established some fake upsets that happened in the round of 64, we have to talk about the obvious upsets. To me, there was 3 clear upsets that happened that I think everyone picked in their brackets. My first obvious one was 11 seed Drake vs 6 seed Missouri. The Bulldogs beat other teams such as Miami, Vanderbilt, and Kansas State in non-conference play, allowing just 58.4 points per game, the second best mark in the country. Neither team really had size, and Drake with their 30-win season usually set the pace of their games, which exactly happened. Drake won by 10. The other 2 obvious upsets were 12 seed vs 5 seeds that took place. Colorado State over Memphis and McNeese State over Clemson. I never trusted those Penny Hardaway teams from Memphis, and Colorado State was actually favored by 2.5 this game, so that gave an obvious 12 seed pick. McNeese over Clemson was just one of those games you got the vibe McNeese was winning no matter the stats or predictions. And whether you liked or hated him, when I saw Amir Khan and his boombox, I was picking McNeese every time. Also helped Will Wade had these guys playing great all year. They were equivalent to Murray State in 2019 versus Marquette. I don't think I picked Marquette in a single bracket because of Murray State's vibes and the help from Ja Morant. So besides those 3 obvious upsets and the other fake upsets, there wasn't too much unpredictability in the first round. 2025 was also the first time since 2017 no team seeded lower than a 12 made it past the first round. Yet just 181 brackets remained perfect through the round of 64, not because the games were unpredictable, but because we made them unpredictable. Cinderella in terms of college basketball is used to describe an unheralded, lower-seeded team making a deep tournament run that no one saw coming. Cinderella's make or break a great March Madness in terms of chaos, but this 2025 Big Dance had nearly 0 Cinderellas to be crowned. There was only one double-digit seed to make it past the round of 32 this year, with that being 10 seed Arkansas. And besides Arkansas, the other surprises were 6 seed BYU and Ole Miss making it to the Sweet 16 as well. And honestly, a 6 seed is not a Cinderella. Picking them over a 3 seed isn't that crazy. Other than those 3 teams, just picking the higher seed would have been your best bet. A miracle shot helped Maryland from letting CSU be another Cinderella. However, these results were and are concerning for Cinderellas, as we are kind of seeing it in the 2026 bracket as well. But I think the effects of the new transfer portal era is taking a toll on these mid-majors or Cinderellas. Smaller schools losing players faster and power schools reloading quicker. And that's saying a lot from the 2025 bracket, as Arkansas isn't a small basketball school right now, so not a true Cinderella like a mid-major. Maybe the committee is getting better at seeding the teams where they need to be, but the smaller schools are taking a hit in talent, that's for sure. Anyways, the round of 32 is really where the tournament stopped being chaotic. Favorites started winning consistently, with upset-heavy thinking backfiring bracket makers even more, turning this bracket into one of the most chalk-heavy tournaments in recent memory. Despite the madness being turned down, there was only one perfect bracket remaining after the Duke-Baylor matchup, but a Kentucky win versus Illinois ended all brackets. And by the time we got to the Sweet 16, the chaos everyone expected just never showed up. No Cinderella runs, no shocking double-digit seeds, just the best teams doing exactly what they were supposed to do. 12 of the 16 Sweet 16 teams were top 4 seeds, 6 seeds BYU and Ole Miss, 5 seed Michigan, and 10 seed Arkansas were the only ones not a 1 through 4 seed. Then the Sweet 16 produced absolutely 0 surprises. If you would just pick the higher seed these 8 games, you were 100% correct, didn't have to overthink. Meaning the Elite 8 saw 4 1 seeds, 3 2 seeds, and 1 3 seed tying 2007 for the lowest combined seed total in the Elite 8 history, where the Elite 8 eventually turned out to be easier games to pick than the Sweet 16. The Final Four brought us what felt like 2 no-brainer matchups. Because just for the second time ever joining 2008, all 4 number 1 seeds made it, and surprisingly, this wasn't some impossible outcome to predict. Over 280,000 brackets got the Final Four exactly right, with these teams being picked to be the champions a combined 70% of the time. So this wasn't where brackets were being lost, but ironically, this is where the madness finally showed up. Florida came back from 8 down at halftime to beat Auburn, with Houston pulling off one of the wildest finishes of the tournament, being down 9 to Duke with just 3 minutes left and winning by 3. And that's the twist. The matchups were predictable, but the games themselves were chaos. But by this point, it didn't even matter, as most brackets were already busted days ago. So when the madness finally arrived, almost no one benefited from it. And in the end, Florida capped it off with another comeback, erasing a 12-point deficit against Houston to win the national championship. Our love for the Big Dance each and every year is something that will never be broken. No matter if perfection never finds a single bracket, 2025 was the greatest opportunity for someone to go down in history. But we all realized after this year that even when March Madness behaves, it's still impossible to predict perfectly.
If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and hitting the bell notifications. Thank you.